Today is September the 7th, and Apple just had their event. Um, what are my thoughts on it? I'm not really sure. I think I've gotten to the point where Apple is going to be Apple. They're going to do what they want to do, of course. I mean, but what they do leads to their success. And when they don't have a success, things or that particular item just kind of fades to the black. Excuse me. So instead of doing what I sometimes do, which is make one ridiculously long video, I think I'm gonna try to break it up. So I don't know how I'm going to start all the other ones, and I might end up saying kind of the same stuff. But they introduced two new Apple Watches, some AirPods, which I don't particularly care too much about, but I might still look at them, and then of course the new iPhones. And yeah, I think that's what I'll do. So multiple videos to break it up, just to give my thoughts on the new products, because I'm not going to say anything's confusing. No, not at all. Just interesting stuff, and I don't think I'm surprised. Don't think anything is super, I guess, revolutionary or super innovative, even though they'll say that the things are. But you can't and I accept that you can't always have something that's incredibly innovative every year. Like that's just not how it's going to work, because at some point you say, well, we've done so much already, and next year can't be as spectacular as the last. But hmm. So without further ado, let's get started. So here, as I mentioned, Apple announced some new Apple Watches. Um, and I was trying to do this on my Mac so I could get all three of them on the same screen, but the microphone on that wasn't that great, and my external mic is in storage somewhere, so I need to buy a new one at some point, and I will. But right now, we're just going to talk about the two that I think are worthy of comparison, as opposed to that other one, which when I click on the compare all models, that one will get brought up. But for now, let's just talk about the two ones that are meant for most consumers. So you have the new Series 8 as well as the new SE. And of course, I could select different watches, and maybe I'll end up doing that instead of going to that select all or compare all watches. But as usual, it's kind of a year over year iteration, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people probably expect something fantastic or stupendous each particular year, but no, like we made a watch last year, or they made a watch last year. We're going to make another watch this year, or make another one next year. We can't expect too much change year over year. So, of course, you got all talking about the spectacular, this blah, 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 blah. Please feel free to pause and read this, or go to Apple's website to see exactly what type of adjectives they're using to describe their products. But for me, I think what is nice to see is that the price of the SE, at least, is 249, starts at 249, and the price of the Series 8 starts still at 399. So it's nice to see that, unlike some other products where the base item or the base model has increased in price, it's nice to see that the base model for the Series 8 is the same, and for the SE has actually gone down. Now, what I'll probably do is pause the video at some point and try to see which model the new SE is most similar to. And of course, that's how they're able to keep the price low, is because they're just saying, well, we took another Apple Watch that we already created, maybe updated the internals, and then, repackaged it as something else. So I'll have to take a look to see exactly which one this Apple Watch is most similar to, one of the past. But one thing I do question, though, when it comes to these new watches, is for the Series 8, and for I think all models in the past, why is it $100 more for the Series 8 to go from GPS to cellular, but for the SE, it's only $50 more to go from GPS to cellular? As we scroll down, maybe we'll see. Are these 5G watches? I don't know, but I don't really care. But my only, I guess, statement of understanding would be that if the Series 8 were a 5G watch, then that would require the additional charge. In the keynote, they said something about some satellite stuff, but I thought that might have been for either the phone or the old. I don't know, but let's continue. So that's my first question. What's the price difference, or why is there a price difference going from cellular GPS between the different models? All right. So of course, different screen sizes. Huh. I didn't realize that the SE was not dust resistant. That's interesting. I'd assume that they're both water resistant though. So yeah, I get dust particles compared to water. I'm not really sure, but hey, I guess whatever glue that they used, or maybe they didn't feel like paying for the certification, since in order to get those certifications, you have to pay whatever company it is that says, hey, yes, your stuff meets the quality, the standard to be deemed water resistant, dust resistant, or whatever the other resistances are. Um, Now, you don't see it here, but when you click on the compare all Apple Watches, it says that the SE has an LPTO display, so one of those variable refresh rate displays. I believe that's what the LTPO thing is, which for, I guess, the newer non SE watches, when it has that type of display, it allows the refresh rate to ramp down when you aren't actively using it. If you're just staring at it, or if it's just, if your arm is down and you're not looking at the watch. And I thought that's what allowed Apple to feel comfortable giving the watch the always on option. But if the SE has the same LTPO technology, why isn't that an always on display? I kind of feel like that's one of those software things. They're just saying, well, if you want that feature, even though the hardware allows it, you now have to pay more for it because we just won't implement it software wise. Don't know what's going on with that, but hey. Of course, they talk about screen sizes since, yeah, the Series 8 is bigger. And this is where, yeah, so they're both water resistant, but the SE isn't dust resistant. That's, hey, okay. I don't get that one, but I will accept it. There's no blood oxygen app for the SE, no ECG app. And see, that's one of those things where it's like, okay, is the hardware there? Like high heart rate. So yeah, the high heart rate notifications are allowed, the irregular rhythm notifications, cardio fitness. So all of those are there. So what, I guess they took the blood oxygen sensor out of the SE. Same thing with the ECG sensor, but it just, so yeah, I don't know what it means. If it's like the app isn't on the watch, but I thought the app would be in the Apple Watch. Well, no, I guess it is on the, is the hardware there? Is the hardware? And yeah, if it just said no blood oxygen sensor, I'd say cool. All right, I get it. Or no ECG sensor, cool, I get it. The hardware isn't there. But if you're just telling me that an app isn't there, does that mean that the hardware is there that would allow the app to function properly, but you've just chosen to disable it? I don't know. I really don't know. Temperature sensing, yes, they definitely talked about that. Uh, in the announcement today. So I do feel like, yeah, that's hardware. And even then, that's still, since it doesn't say app, which, I try to think as broadly as possible. Temperature sensing for me, because it doesn't say app, leads me to believe that they're talking about the hardware that they talked about in the keynote today. So I can understand that the SE doesn't have that hardware. But again, going back up to the stuff dealing with the heart and blood oxygen, saying that it doesn't have the app makes it sound like the hardware is there, but they just disabled it via software. Cycle tracking, and they get wire. uh, so cycle tracking with retrospective ovulation estimates versus just regular cycle tracking. Is that hardware limitations or are these software limitations? Like, and that I am really losing my mind over here simply because this is the first time that I'm looking at it. And of course, when everything's on the screen and you're watching it during their actual keynote, you're not really paying attention. But what I feel like I'm seeing are a bunch of software limitations that they're just purposely disabling, even though the hardware would allow for it to work. I don't know though, and maybe if I remember, I'll go all the way down to the bottom to see what all of those little superscripts mean. But it's just very interesting. So all these things are the same: SOS, emergency stuff, I can imagine that last little dash right there is probably something that would be present if you looked at the new iPhone Ultra. Is it the 8 Ultra or just the iPhone Ultra? I don't know. We'll take a look at that in most likely in another video. Compass, GPS, always on altimeter, cellular connectivities, battery life. Okay, see, another fast charge. I just don't get the option to fast charge with the cheaper watch. Sounds again like another software limitation more so than a hardware limitation. I could be wrong. Just like I could be wrong with the other ones that I mentioned above. But yeah, fast charge seems more like a software limitation than anything else. Key differences. Okay. So, always on display versus just a retina display. But again, if it's still LTPTO or however the four letters are, I thought that meant that it could, or it could always do it. I thought it meant that Apple wanted it or allowed it to do it because it felt comfortable because of battery life concerns. Yes, different screen sizes, of course. Okay, yeah, the SE only comes in aluminum, which you can get the 8 in stainless steel. Haven't seen some of the stainless steel ones out in the wild. I think aluminum definitely looks cheaper, but the stainless steel it's shiny, so it gets dirty and the fingerprints. So I don't know if stainless steel is really an upgrade, but if that's what you want, that's what you want. That's how they look in the aluminum ones. Different colors, of course. And again, yeah, we're back to kind of just repeating all the same stuff. So when I see app, just for like the blood oxygen app, the ECG app, and it's not available on the SE, I really feel like they're saying, yeah, the hardware's there, but we're just going to disable it. I'm just going to muffle my mouth like this so you can't understand what I'm saying because we could do it, but we're just, yeah, it's there, but we don't want you to have it. If you want this stuff, pay more money so that the software is enabled. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So far, my thoughts on the 2 watch, as I kind of mentioned earlier, and in fact, see, this is new down here. So yeah, and this is what I was talking about. Okay, so I wish they had just said that up top. So blood oxygen sensor is available on the 8, just like the electrical heart sensor. All right, so it sounds like those sensors are removed. So I did all that ranting for no reason because it sounds like it's not a software limitation. Sounds like it is a hardware limitation, which to that extent, I understand. But I will scroll down to the bottom when I'm finished to see what some of those superscripts were saying, and I'll probably pause the video so I can look at what I'm doing so I'm not just, aimlessly scrolling around. Let's see, the different generations of optical heart sensors make sense for the 8 to have the newer one. The 8 also has the temperature sensor. Excuse me, they both have the same, system in package, I think is what they call it. And what's the difference between a system in package and a system on a chip? I might look that up if I remember later, but I also feel like that might be Apple just saying things because I hear system on a chip all the time, but system and package, I guess, is something different. Bunch of similarities. Ooh, second generation speaker and mic. Ooh. And I'm not going to read all that stuff. What I will do is scroll down here. I'm not going to read all that. If you want to read it, go to Apple's website. But for me, yeah, I think that the most I can say is I'm happy that the price of the 8 did not go up. And I'm happy that they've decided to redo the SE. Yeah, for people who want an inexpensive Apple Watch, that's an option. And I believe the dude on stage today said that like 80% of people who buy the SE, a lot of people buy the SE apparently, and they most likely see, oh, this watch is new because they always put the little new stamp on the website, and it's cheaper than the other one, so I'll give it a try. And having owned an Apple Watch or two for a couple months, yeah, they are nice devices. They just weren't for me, and I guess I don't have anything really negative to say. I mean, yeah, if you want an Apple Watch, they got some new ones available for you.